So you said clients don't know what they don't know. Great agency work, enhance capabilities, and make the need feel like a want. Fundamentally, you're saying this, that innovation can come only when you are stuck or when you have problems. You're saying innovation has to be planned all the time as a 10%.
Always on, always on. Because the market's always on, right? The industry is always changing, it's always evolving. And if you're out of step with that evolution, you're already behind.
Erin, would you please introduce yourself, your position, responsibility inside your agency, and all the juicy, interesting things?
Yeah, happy to. Hello, my name's Erin Metcalf. I am an executive group account director at Accenture Song, and I lead our account management department in the United States. Grew up in the New York City advertising circuit, had about a decade at Gray, where I got my start, and then bounced around from a couple agencies, from Deutsch to Barbarian, before landing at Song for the last 4 years of my career.
So you said clients don't know what they don't know. Great agency work, enhance capabilities, and make the need feel like a want. Wow. Okay. So profound. Amazing. Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think at our core, we're all just victims of our own past experiences. So there's a lot of expertise and capabilities that we may have not encountered. There's a lot of different categories we may have not encountered. This is what it means to exist in this industry, and to show up every day and act like you have all the answers is, yes, what we all do, but at what point can we all let our guard down a little bit and be a little vulnerable? And I think that's where the magic happens in an agency client relationship, when we can, and that's my job fundamentally as the key liaison across my businesses, to interrogate asks.
Okay.
Right? Make sure we really understand where the ask is coming from, and that we can articulate it in terms that make sense not only to the client but also to us. Because if we're not aligned in the onset, and if we're not aligned throughout an engagement, you're set up to fail.
So we are talking about agency client dynamic here. We have 3 topics to cover today. And this one is your specialty, your superpower. It's a value outside of perspective. That's what we're saying. That's what your quote really saying. We know what we know, and things that we don't know, we have to put the guard down and learn. Maybe learn is the wrong word to say, but so that's what agency, my background is agency, and I know what agency values that agency really brings to the table. It's that outside of perspective.
Yeah, which is critical. It is critical. We've seen it a little bit, and I support the building of internal agencies to support brands. And I think there's a lot of great ways that they are embedded into the business that brings to life perfect content to go to market. But I think sometimes brands can be very siloed by their own business thinking and their own in-house values and cultures, that they don't always see the white space or the opportunity that could be at hand by being a little bit more maybe risky. But we have to bring them along for the ride, right? We have to show them why at every turn now the decisions that we put in front of them are the right ones. And those are always data backed. They're always strategically sound in the culture and the category and the consumer, right?
One of my friends will say, you can't have a surgery on yourself. You're always asking for help outside. It is an analog to explain this. And we are not capable of really seeing ourselves from outside. And that is what great creative shops really do. They really bring the additional perspective. If nothing better perspective, it's just additional perspective. It's just point to reference. I really want to talk to you about innovation. And it's pretty much the same thing as bringing additional perspective. So talk to me about innovation. What is innovation today's world? The market is so flat and it's sticking out, and being better or being worse, it's really almost unacceptable.
Yeah, innovation, you and I have talked a little bit about this, but innovation is such a buzzword, right? And we use it so often. I think it can be because it's overused and because it's so aspirational in a way, it can be really intimidating. And I think as we look at the marketplace as it currently is, and we're in we haven't been in great economic conditions for a couple of years now. Brands who want to continue to stay relevant need to understand that innovation probably looks different based on where you are in your current brand life cycle, but it also needs to be strategically invested in. And you can do that by just siphoning out 10% of your budget annually to invest in.
Fundamentally, you're saying this, that innovation can come only when you are stuck or when you have a problem. Innovation has to be planned all the time as a 10% of
always on. Because the market's always on, right? The industry is always changing. It's always evolving. And if you're out of step with that evolution, you're already behind. That's why it's so intimidating, right?
Yeah. So innovation has a lot to do with the change. And the change is directly related to loss aversion, and it triggers the fear in us, right? So would you say that is the role of the agency today? Can you decode all that innovation? Let's give it a different word. Let's reframe the innovation.
Ooh. I don't know if I have one off the top of my tongue, but I do like this exercise. Maybe we can brainstorm it together.
Okay, let's go. So what it really does, it brings something that usually is not in our perspective. So adding additional perspective, which is, we already described that. And I'm just going back to your quote, need, feel like a want.
Yeah. And they've also added like micro incentives on the platform recently, like targets. If you just work out 3 days a week, for example, right? To get you consistently on the platform and then consistently seeing results, right? So that's a great analogous for an innovation mindset, right? Having these micro engagements always on that allow you to make progress over time.
Right. So it creates those small habits that really drive new behaviors. We have something here, and that is breaking the ordinary with the new, and the new has to turn into want.
I like that. So I think we're onto something, because I agree. I was thinking in the back of my mind, and I know you're a heuristics expert, right? Change is part of the issue here. People get quite skittish when you think about.
So what are the examples of innovation that you recently have done with your clients?
Yeah, I think one thing is, it's not client specific, it's just the first that's coming to my head, but I lead the account management group at Song, right? And I lead a couple large teams, and I'm trying to get them into always on innovation mindset. And at Song, we're very publicly endorsing and backing Gen AI. And it's something that all of our practitioners at the firm need to understand, right? And incorporate into their workflows. Even if our clients are not yet buying it, a lot of them are, but even if our clients are not yet buying that, we need to be adopting it into our workflow and showing the results in some way. So in order to do that, I've evangelized people with experimentation, right? On one of my client teams, everyone has access to Copilot. We have access to Enterprise GPT. In some instances, we have access to Writer. We are constantly experimenting. And what my ask to the team is always is, tell me the awesome thing you did this week with these tools, right? Let's teach each other, because the more use cases we can socialize, the more ways we can have people understanding how the tools could benefit them.
Internally, that's how you do it. You basically have your team running a free and doing experimentation, and they're encouraged to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other way we do it is similar, like this is more external facing, for example, is if we're trying to bring clients along on the journey of innovation, it always needs to be backed by data and by some type of compelling case study that shows them the value of adaptation. And that's just the first conversation. That's to whet their palate. And then typically what we have to do is showcase the value by implementing it, turning on a pilot, and monitoring its success so that we can scale it to a place that they're comfortable. And it's a similar mindset in both stories, right? It's getting people's toes wet with change, right? Getting them comfortable with the idea. And then before you know it, there's adaptation.
Wow. I like you calling it adaptation.
Maybe that's what we should call it. Instead of
such a-
innovation, it's just adaptation, and it doesn't need to be technology specific, right? It could
No.
be creatively driven
Psychological.
adaptation. You're right.
So here's the thing, right? Innovation signal, at least by now, signalizing change, and we hate that. Adaptation means adapting to new. It's a gentle way. I think I really do love adaptation. And there is something in adaptation that is much deeper and profoundly human.
Yeah. Adapting, it assumes resiliency. And I love anything that assumes resiliency.
I love resilience as a concept as well, because it's making us better.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, I didn't think we were going to solve for this
You got
little
it.
test that we gave ourselves to change the word
Wow.
innovation to make it not as scary, but we got there.
Yes. All right. What Erin's superpower is decoding the needs. We're coming back to your quote. That's why I like it so much, because there's
Yeah.
so much to it. Is decoding needs. It's active listening, help me understand, uncover unspoken needs. The way I'm saying this is listening.
I have to say, I think it is an underutilized skill of people. I think we're in the age of distraction, right? There's millions of screens vying for our time. We're used to instant gratification on our feeds and on our platforms when we're looking for something to entertain us, for example. People forget and they don't often listen actively. And I think listening actively is one of the key ways to demonstrate clear understanding to clients that you're in a partnership with them. Just the simple act of repeating back the things that they're saying, or taking the time to ensure that you have a clear understanding by rephrasing things. It's an underutilized skill that would help a lot of people communicate better and create relationships faster.
So how do you do that? Do you use any methodologies, or it's just really pure like emotional intelligence?
It's a great question. And I don't know if I've ever really broken it down, but I will say first and foremost, if I am on a call like I am with you right now, I'm distraction free, right? I don't currently have my phone next to me. I don't currently have my email on. When we first started, it was pinging, distraction, right? Those things take you out of the moment and out of the conversation immediately. And you've probably felt it yourself, right? When you're on a virtual conversation or even an in-person conversation with someone and you're talking and all of a sudden they are somewhere else. I think in our world, a lot of times there's jargon and buzzwords that people say, and it sounds like they're saying something intelligent. We like to call it word soup sometimes, right? We're like, oh, she's word souping us, or he's word souping us, right? And what I like to do in those moments is if I don't understand what someone is telling me, especially a client, I seek clarity. I seek understanding. I ask questions. Can you say that another way? Or when you say X, what do you mean? Can you tell me more? Those little things, they show you're listening, they show you're interested, and they show that you're seeking to understand, which I think is critical in active listening and ultimately building a successful partnership.
Yeah, I really want to know more about that. I'm working on these things at differently. When I listen what people saying, decoding, right? I call these analogies.
Yeah. And we have to admit when someone's expertise is at the edge of our understanding, right? There are times when I will speak to people who are extremely practiced in analytics, for example, and I'll have to have them walk it back for me. And I'll be like, listen, you're at the edge of my generalist knowledge here. Yeah, absolutely. You're
So
right.
what do you do to, I shouldn't say teach, explain what you're saying to the clients? Because jargon and these big words really comes across. We know what it means, but actually no clue.
I think if I know I'm walking into a room of people who are not marketing experts, I like to try to create a safe space at the beginning of the conversation so that they can stop me, right? And they can make sure that they're following because, listen, I have been in advertising for 20 years. I have been at Accenture for 4. Accenture has their own language. And often I can trail into each one of our own set of industry buzzwords or firm buzzwords, and people won't be following along. So you have to, I think, first set the safe space. And then like I said, I'm present, right, in a room of these people. So I'm monitoring their faces.
So one of the trends that I'm seeing in the market, in social media and in conversation in general is actually reframing the conversation, literally doing what we just spoke about.
Yeah.
Help yourself explain instead of word brain, what is that you saying? And the conversation is, I used to exercise like a rejecting word cool, and it just makes you think much harder of what you're really trying to say. So
yeah, I try to reject adult language, better known as bad words or swear words for my children, and always tell them that there are more articulate ways to express yourself than using those words. So while they're adult words and adults can use them, adults could consider better ways to express themselves.
So are you teaching them to teach the adults that? Or you teach?
I think I'm just making a statement for whoever hears me teaching my children in the situation.
So if there's anything else that you want to do you any story, like a war story that you want to share with me? I know you do, but can you really share those? Something that your client will love that you said.
It's an old one. And maybe this says just a little bit about the person I am. I tend to be very optimistic and positive because what's the point in thinking about the negative? I'm not going to lose my optimism. I think it serves me well more times than it doesn't. So one of my favorite projects that I got an opportunity to work on was bringing back the Jolly Green Giant. Incredible. Jolly Green Giant was owned by P&G, and they sold it off to B&G Foods out of New Jersey. And we got the contract when I worked at Deutsch. And it was like, I had my whole background at this point was in food, and I loved working on food clients. So the idea of bringing back the Jolly Green Giant was catnip to me. So we made the decision when we created this campaign that we were going to not do a CGI or a cartoon Jolly Green Giant. We wanted to cast a real person and use some prosthetics and stuff. So this is how they do it in superhero movies. If you don't know, like they cast real people and then they add the stuff and then there's a little bit of CGI overlay. So that was the goal. And I'll never forget, I was flying to London to shoot these sets of spots, and I landed in London, and this was before you got messages on a plane, right? I landed in London and I had a frantic voicemail from my boss at the time that was like, they're gonna fire us. The Green Giant looks terrible. And I was like, what? So obviously I'm panicking. I'm about to go see the client, right? We're about to show him like what the Green Giant looks like, right? He's on set already. And it was an amazing, casual, carefree shoot. But this is how it started. Again, I'm optimistic. And the spots were awesome. They had tremendous double-digit sales for B&G. They were funny. They introduced a completely new product for Green Giant, and it was a flat category. The story, it's maybe not as dramatic as you wanted, but I say, it's good to look on the sunny side. Everyone can find a fault in something, but I think more often than not, if we partner together and if we know that, and if we stay in our like courage of conviction that what the path we were going on was the right one, it's going to turn out great.
Thank you for sharing the war story. I think that's
it is a war story because it gave me more trauma, but maybe not you as much trauma as I felt.
But one thing that I want to share with you is that optimism is just diffuse light, positive than optimistic. You're clearly driving it through giving you, I will just take it. Okay.
Yeah.
More fitting for you.
Thank you. I think the positivity is a strength. And actually in my Gallup Strength Finder, it's one of my strengths.